Okay, welcome to another edition of the 365 podcast and how to get happy users and make AI adoption scalable in 90 days with Carina, the Vries, today. And yeah, Karina, it's really interesting character. So she is an MVP for Teams and Copilot, founder of the Workspace Heroes, and speaker of at the Ignite. And I see she was mentioned in the top 10. And also a broad member of Dutch women in tech. And yeah, that's also an interesting topic. I will start with this. I see the Netherlands has these interesting women in tech uh, culture. I see there it's Femke Cornelsen, Evie van der, or I think I pronounce the Evie. I say Evie van der Velden, and yeah, it's what make this so this yeah, um, Dutch women tech so famous. So
Well, that's a good question. Well, first off, thank you for having me. And after a series of your solo podcast, I'm very happy that I can be one of the first members who can join you with this format. So thank you. Well, you mentioned Femke and Avi, and you pronounce both right. So Femke and Avi are also in Dutch Women in Tech, and of course, Femke is the founder of Dutch Women in Tech, and I joined as one of the first women in her movement. And I think, especially due to the work that Femke has been doing for about 4 years now, it's really a common topic to talk about in the Netherlands. And somehow she made it possible for a community like us to grow and to have a certain kind of name. And currently, we are even evolving Dutch Women in Tech because we saw in the last year that um, the topic is rather common now to talk about diversity and inclusion. So what we saw is that we needed to take the next step with Dutch Women in Tech, and we are now embedding a Dutch approach in multiple communities in the Netherlands because we truly believe that we should have more women in the workplace. And the best thing to do so is to get those women in the workplace and not just in our Dutch Women in Tech community. So, first, we started with getting the women to us and help them feel comfortable and find a common ground in the community. Like, I am the only woman in my company. What do I need to do? Or can you help me? And now we've established that. So, we need to take them back to the workplaces that work is becoming progressively more men, and that's a new shift that we are taking. And I feel like that the Netherlands is ready to take this new role of diversity and inclusion, but it's also due to a lot of hard work like Femke and Avi.
yeah, I found that it's so yeah. For my feeling, I don't know it's right, but I see
Mhm.
there are. My feeling it's there's nearly yeah 50-50 women and men in the MVP program, and here in Germany or other countries, it's yeah it's so cool. And I
What's
think
it like in Germany then? What's the balance between women and men in Germany?
I only know it from the uh, LinkedIn Graph API, and we
Hmm.
have nearly 23% women in tech.
Yeah.
Not in tech companies, in tech jobs. So that's a little bit
Okay.
different.
Yeah.
And yeah, and yeah, and I think it's so it's very important to do this job, and I think yeah we have to look at the Netherlands for this because it's so good.
Yeah.
I really yeah feel I don't know not proud, yeah, proud for the Netherlands to doing this great job, and I
Yeah.
think it's come a little bit from these more SME thinking, small and mid-sized company thinking in the
Hmm.
Netherlands. Here we have a lot of big companies, and I think it's more hard to, yeah, to join. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
right, but
But it's still in the Netherlands, if you see numbers, in the Netherlands, we only have 18% women in tech. So that's even lower. And if you, of course, if you take two women working at a marketing department or a finance department, if you count them in how many women do we have in IT, then it's more. But if you really specifically look at tech jobs, tech roles, then it's really low. So that's why we feel like, of course, the Netherlands is very open for diversity and inclusion, but if you look at the numbers, we still have a lot of work to do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was only I see it only on the MVP side, and there I see it. There are a lot of women in
Yeah.
this program. I think,
Luckily. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you then Microsoft does their a good job, or
Of course.
the
Yeah, and we also need Microsoft for it. And Microsoft is in, and what I really love is that there's a growing community part in events. Like we have in Ignite, it was also, but it's also in a European, the ECS. And you see multiple large events in in the Netherlands, but also in Europe and also in America now with the help of Microsoft. Large of these events are having specific topics on women in IT or women voices in IT, and that's also really helpful for us for us as well. So we also always try to send someone from our community to those conversations, and yeah, I think that's also really helpful. That especially Microsoft is helping driving this inclusiveness culture. So yeah, yeah.
so you're a double MVP, right? In Teams and Copilot? Have I?
No, I'm just in the Microsoft 365 MVP, but in the technology teams and Copilot. So I am a single MVP, but it was also hard to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a single MVP. So yeah, Avi, for example, just recently got her first MVP recognition, and she got two MVP recognitions in Copilot and N365. So I was really proud of her. But I just in one category, an MVP, but that's I'm very proud of that as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and we will today talk a little bit about Copilot, and if you had to explain Copilot to your grandmother in one sentence, how would you
To
do
my
it?
grandmother, okay. Well, she's no longer amongst us, so let me explain it to my mom. I just tell her it's an assist. It's a technology assistant, and it can help me with all sorts of tasks. I think that's the best way to describe it. And I give her the example of I don't like to write long reports. I'm not that good at long documents, so I always try to help. Let me help, for example, an AI assistant to help me write a document. And if I explain it like this, then she understands what I'm talking about. And that's just the simple version of Copilot. And we're not even talking about Copilot Studio or whatsoever. So I just keep it simple and say, this is what it can help me with my daily task. And then I give an example of a daily task that she or the person I'm talking to can resonate with. Yeah.
I
How do
think the
you explain it to people?
Oh, yeah. I show the meme, and that
Mhm.
it's where one guy sit there and say, "Okay, I have only 5 points. Make me a long email," and then the other who get the email make me 5 points from it. No, um,
Yeah.
this is more the funny part. Me, I think it's something that helps you get more productivity in your work. And I think this
Mhm.
is one thing, and the other thing it's I'm a little bit critical because I think it's all the people I see, okay, I can do it with AI, and I think, okay, there are other services you can use like vector databases and so on, and
Of
it's more
course.
cheaper. So yeah,
Yeah.
I also find it hard to explain, but I think it's a very productive colleague you have on your side.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's obvious that we talk about productivity. It's also like I in the back in the days when I was helping customers implement SharePoint, we also said it's going to help you make you more productive, which in the end was very hard measurable with your documents stared in a short so stored in SharePoint. Um, but nowadays we can really say it's productive. But I feel like that the best thing I get out of using Copilot is quality and being able to do more in the time. Of course, that's productivity, but productivity always has a well, more or less negative
Yeah,
feeling
yeah.
for me. So that's why I try to aim it on the positive side and say I can do more and help more people or get more quality in my work that I deliver. So yeah, well, that's my kind of takeaway with SharePoint implementations in the background.
So I look a little bit in your LinkedIn profile,
Oh
and
dear.
oh yeah, and you started as application manager. How did it shape your adaptation mindset today?
Well, I have to be honest that I started earlier in my career not being in IT, but as a secretary. I worked 10 years as a secretary. And as a secretary, you're always asked for help, like my printer isn't working, or how do I make a formula in Excel, or my Outlook is stuck. What can I do? And whatever kind of question. So it was very common that users, colleagues came to me and asked a question. And I'm always curious and always wanting and eager to learn more. So of course people went to me because I always found out the answer. And along the way, people ask me for projects, IT projects, like implementing a new SharePoint system or implementing a new finance system because of my curiosity. And as a secretary, my role in organizations, I always knew the different parts of processes that were involved in the organization. So I kind of was on the other side, like uh, a super user, I guess, and a help a buddy system for my colleagues. So at my last organization where I worked as a secretary, I got asked to join the IT department since they were minimalizing secretary roles. It was a phase a couple of years ago where secretary roles were declining. And then when I started as an application manager for a CRM system, which was not my thing, by the way, but I do liked working for IT. And then since the system wasn't really in my DNA or not really getting me the most fun of it, I started working as a application manager at a water company, and that was when I got hooked on IT because they were rolling out a workplace update to I believe it was Windows 7 from XP to Windows 7. And they had 700 applications running on their workplace, which was really, really a lot because they only had 600 people working there. So, and that got me intrigued because IT said, yeah, we have so much applications. We need to do something about it, but we have no clue where to start. And then I said, well, let me talk to all the users. So I talked to all the users and then found out that people really had a good argument for using those applications. So we tried to rationalize it to back to 200 applications. Of course, was a little bit less than the 700, but it still showed me that users have a voice and users understand what they need to do to get their work done. And that's a little bit different than an IT department says, you should use my applications because I think you should use them. And then I found out pretty soon in my career that people always have a good reason to use technology. And it always has to be something beneficial to their daily jobs. And if you understand why they're using or what they're doing in their daily jobs, then it's much more easy for me to understand how can I make technology work for them. So that's when got hooked up to user adoption, and I've never touched a new project without adoption in it. So yeah, that's now I think it's now 14 years ago. So
Okay,
yeah.
and this was the moment the Workspace Heroes was born.
No, I started in as an internal employee, and then along the way, like I said, I understood quite soon and early on how user adoption should help organizations, but I came across organizations who weren't able to sell that to their customers. So I most of the times I was sent to clients or projects that were just helping their users with just one training, like a one simple SharePoint training or a simple Teams training, and I really got mentally frustrated with because I always say we have a saying in the Netherlands, and that's like if someone looks like me, like a deer in the headlights of a car. So that's a Dutch saying, and that was always the feeling. I was just always in front of those training sessions or workshop sessions, and people were looking at me and thinking, "Yeah, I kind of understand what you're going through with the application, but I still don't feel it, and I still don't understand how to use it in my daily jobs." So I got frustrated with that approach from most of the IT organizations, and then that was 8 years ago. I stopped working for a company and starting my own company, and that was Workspace Heroes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. What did you do at the Workspace Heroes for your clients?
Well, I only try to help organizations with the user adoption. So I first off, of course, in my career, I started with helping with setting up the right training approach, like a training plan or training brochure, and also with communication plans. So, what do we need to communicate is also a very hard question. 80% of IT projects fail because of a lack of the correct communication, and we always seem to focus on training, but we forget that we need to focus on communication. So along the way, I before even Atkar and ProSci was mentioned by Microsoft, I already started working on my own approach, and that's what I usually use at customers nowadays. And it's just a basic way
Easy
of in a day, I can help organizations set up
sites
the strategy for
and
communication and training, and then they can make sure that they either do it themselves, because I really feel like organizations should use less consultants instead of more. I feel like that's the way to go nowadays. We can do more than just help them execute their strategies. So I feel like organizations should do their own strategies, and if they really want my help, then of course I can also help them implement the adoption strategy as well. But along the way, and that's especially in COVID time, I had my own team. In COVID time, we had a really hard time moving forward. Clients all got trainings for free. Maybe you remember that Microsoft started giving webinars for free, and most, especially the large companies in the Netherlands, started helping their clients with free trainings. So my company had a hard time because we still offered them, but they had to pay for it. So we had a really struggling time. So I had to let my people go, and I went on alone. And nowadays, I only work with independent trainers and consultants. So I'm kind of like now more a sales channel than per se a consultant on my own. So I'm also evolving in my company and in my activities. So people can still hire me for a strategy or whatever they need on adoption. But most of the times I just come for a day and I tell them what they can do, and I guide them to the right organization to help them furthermore.
When we jump in the topic making AI adoptional or scalable in 90 days, so what or how will you describe a happy user
Mm, that's
after
an
the period?
well, happy is um I think happy is explainable to everyone. It's a term that everyone uses differently, let me say so. So, what makes you happy wouldn't make me happy, or the other way around. So, I think that's also that question being asked to your organization is a good way to start an adoption process. If we implement the technology, will it make our users happy? And to know if it makes them happy, you have to ask them. So asking me this question, I feel like no one has ever asked me this question. You're the first one who asked me what is a happy user, which is exactly what we need to do. We have to ask people more instead of assuming what makes them happy. So compliments to you for asking this question. But happy, well, if you see what I feel like a happy user should be like, it's someone who can use the technology in the best way possible to do their daily jobs. And even so, it's going to make them feel happy in their work, happy with the quality, happy with the output, and also happy mentally. Because I feel like we have way too much technology in our daily lives, and I feel like technology should also make you happy without using technology. So that's also something that I feel like it would be a happy user. So two sides on the question. We need to ask each other what makes you happy, and the other side is how I feel like happy means for me.
Yeah, I think sometimes I see I'm more from the data side, uh, like Fabric and so on, and
Mhm.
the companies ask more what make people successful
Mhm.
for how we earn more money. How I think that's the wrong questions, but it's has from the management, and they have a different look than the users. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Well,
when
you're triggering me because I had a conversation the other week, and someone said to me, Uh, IT companies don't like to talk about adoption because they can't measure the outcome, and I feel that's not true. Because if you adoption isn't the question, it's about what do we need to do to make you happy in your work or make you thrive in your work, and that's measurable. So the word adoption isn't measurable, but what you're trying to adopt is measurable. So I feel like that you're really nailing the point there. Yeah.
I have meet I think it was I don't know what the English word for this. It's like yeah, ambassador from
Mm-hmm.
Bhutan, and they have for their people a happiness index, how happy people are, and I think that's also cool to think about because yeah, that's a lot of implementation we have, like yeah, how long stay users, how can that? So I think that's it's a really interesting topic to make. Yeah, the users or the end uh, users happy with the system and also with AI. But
Yeah.
when we start, we have, I say, a phase one. I call it so a little bit understanding and discovery for us. So in the first 30 days, what should companies focus on first in AI?
Well, I think you're referring to the 90 days approach, which where I talked about during Microsoft Ignite. I see in the we have the first 14 days is making sure we get our guardrails ready. So I feel like that we're taking too long of a time to make sure we can roll out a program because the basic thing is we need to know how to communicate and we need to know what people should learn. I feel like especially with Copilot and if you ask an expert like you and me on a certain technology, you and I know for our specific technologies what you should learn and what you should communicate, right? So if you have the right expert on board of your program or your project, you can really dense the time that you should prep adoption rollout. So that's the first 14 days. But if you at least know, if you think you need more time, of course. But I really want to challenge organizations in the first 14 days to get the guardrails ready for and setting up your project team to roll out the next of the 75 days. So and then afterwards, then we start with the 30 days, which you are referring to, and those are the 30 days which are really critical for implementing a new way of working. Because try to keep and repeating this sentence. Copilot is not about technology. Copilot is about building new behavior. And I see lots of colleagues and that they are doing the best. And I love that they're doing, please share so, but it's all about technology. But the technology of Copilot isn't really the hard part. It's the part that you need to embed it in your daily jobs. Like if you want help from Copilot reviewing your Outlook emails and you want to have that in a certain way, and it's going to be a consistent way of working and a consistent way of using your Outlook and consistent way of replying emails, then you should consistently use Copilot. So if I send you an email with bullets and it's really recognizable that it's drawn by AI, and the next day I'm writing my own email, the difference is too large. So you have to make sure that if you use Copilot in a task, you should repeatedly do so. And
Mhm.
that's what the 30 days are aimed for. So make sure to build a habit in using Copilot. So now how do you do that? I feel like you should build a cadence in helping people on a daily or almost daily task, help them get Copilot in their system. So what I um, advise organizations is to start every Monday with the best Copilot tip that could be applicable to most of the organization. So, in example, using Copilot in Outlook. And but it could also be using Copilot in a meeting or using Copilot in your OneNote or your documents or wherever you feel like that should be the best tip to start them with. And to do so, to help them, make sure you have a meeting, like a Q&A meeting along the first week that you gave the tip. So you give a tip on Monday and you, for example, have a Q&A on Wednesday. And then the best thing, also with happy users, people want to learn and see it's really beneficial that I've used and learned and something new. So at the end of the week, you want to let people share their best prompts and say, well, I've tried using Copilot in this way, and I feel like you should try it too. And you can build your prompt library with that. So if you have a project team ready, they can review all the prompts that people are using. And then you can say, okay, well, these are the 5 best tips. And you can share them as well in your company to gain more knowledge on how to build the best prompts. And that's the thing that you keep on repeating. So Monday, a tip, Wednesday, a Q&A, and Friday, sharing your knowledge. And to do so, that means that you are working with Copilot on 3 days per week, which is already building a habit. And if you consistently do so, that then at the end of the 4 weeks, I hope users have just at least one task that they became a fan of and are trying to use or wanting to use it along the 30 days. So that's the first phase of the 30 days.
And when we look at it, what are warning signs that something is going wrong in the company to, yeah, I call it the rollout phase or the understanding discovery phase?
Well, there are a couple of things that could go wrong, if you want to say so, and that's that people are not coming to your Q&A sessions or not sharing knowledge at the end of the week. So those are the really two things that you should look out for. And and it's really organization specific what you should do about it. But most of the times, what I try to do about it is make sure there's a knowledge of the people who are in the phase that you're currently in. So the users that you're targeting should know your users, of course, and you should know how to contact them because some organizations have a shitload. I wanted to say it, but then I thought I can't say that. A massive load of communication. So make sure that you are not piling somewhere in that communication pile. So make sure that you target the right communication. What is called communication tool. So, like, are we going to use Outlook? Are we going to use Internet? Are we going to use a Teams chat or whatever you're going to do? But make sure your communication goes to the people and that you can measure if they're reading it, yes or no. So, make sure that your communication is in the right place. And the other thing is, make sure you have at least 5 to 10 users that you know that are really a fan of this way of working, and let them share at least some tips on the Friday. Because if people see tips coming in, then they're eager to share it as well. So, and if not, it's like fake it till you make it. That's also something in the beginning because community work is really hard. Helping a community build your adoption strategy, like ambassadors, is really, really hard. So make sure, fake it till you make it. Make sure that you are the first one in your project team who shares the tips, and make sure you get some users in, and really, you should really help them share their knowledge as well. So those are the basic 2 tips I can give you so far.
That is awesome. I read a little bit about your philosophy. And
Mhm.
sorry for my bad Netherlands. You call it Franken, versimpelen. No, oh God. I
Ja,
anderen versimpelen het Franken. Can
ja.
you break down
Verwo
these points?
yeah, so we have verwonderen. So that's like, being, I'm not quite sure, let me think what the English word for is. It's like being curious, I guess. It's about, being curious to your users. Uh, it's also like, well, previously you asked me what is a happy user. Well, that's a question specifically known for being eager to understand your community or your users. So we try to, or we tend to do the best things we can. Like IT professionals, we always feel like that we want to do the best for our organizations or the people we want to help. But we also, because we know more than the current users, we also assume things. And of course, that's human, but that's something that you really should try to train yourself on, and that's what the first phase is about. So the verwonderen phase is about, do I really understand my users, and do I really understand what their daily problems or questions are? And then the other one, versimpelen, is of course make it simple. Um, uh, I don't have to tell you that it's not very helpful to use IT, what's it called? A language. So um, try to make it as simple as possible. Try to talk the language as your users. Please do not tell them it's an easy solution, because it's most of the times not. Although we feel like a prompt is an easy thing, a user doesn't. So never say it's simple. So also try to align with the language and align with the knowledge that the person is in. So try to make your language simple, but also try to make technology simple. And along the way, for the 14 years I've been doing this, I see that we, for example, we implement Microsoft 365. We turn on all the applications which are in the license because people paid for it, but people will never use it. So if you don't make it simple, please be aware that you're setting up a license bundle of possibilities, but it's never really helpful. I'd rather see organizations uh, close the applications and just say, well, we're starting with Outlook and we're starting with OneDrive. And then we're starting, of course, with your Office. And if that's going well, then we're starting Teams and SharePoint. And if that goes well, we start with Planner, of course. And then we start with, what I'm trying to say is make the technology simple and start with the basics. And if people understand the basic, then pilot with new functionality or extra functionality, and dare to talk to your customers and say, uh, opening a license and opening a software solution isn't going to help them use it. So please understand that's the part I use to make it simple. And then the third phase is about verankeren, and that's embed, of course. Um, I don't know how many projects you've done in IT, but I can probably can relate to this. At least what I see at most organizations is we do a hit and run, and we do it very successfully. So we implement an IT solution, and then that's all almost always done with senior consultants. And then we leave it to junior service desk employees. So that's the really, I can't really grab that. So what I say, if you want to embed this in your organization, also make sure it's embedded in a senior approach. So is your service after the implementation also met with the senior way of working. So I don't want to rank a service employee and they're saying, I don't know the answer that I have to ask my colleague, you know? So well, that's also something that I really aim for. So and if you look at from an adoption side, the hard part is that if you have used your champions, so your Microsoft 365 champions, if you don't make sure you guide them after the implementation, they will for sure leave your company in 2 years after you've done the project. So if you want to embed new technology, also make sure that you embed your help and your adoption lines after the project. So those are the three phases that I try to. My philosophy is about these three steps.
Uh, uh, I have it's a little bit downriding for me. You have this
Mhm.
understanding and discovery phase, simply phase, and deduction, and the embedding behavior phase. So,
Yeah.
um, but one to the second phase. And I have read your manuscript from the Ignite, and you say simplifying is more important than adding more fe- features. I'm more
Yeah.
on the more feature side, but yeah.
I can imagine. But this is exactly the problem that we well problem. This is exactly the balancing that we need to do. Because that's why I also always want to be a part of a technical project at early phases. Because I'm not trying to minimize features. What I'm trying to say, if we minimize features at the start of a project, then the adoption rate is way much higher. So if the adoption rate of let's say we have 10 features we want to implement, but the first two or three are very critical. And if we do not make sure that people are really understanding those first two or three critical features, and they're not grabbing those and grasping that in their daily lives and in their daily jobs, are we sure that the other 7 to 8 features are are helping them? Because if they don't understand the basis of the functionalities and the features that we've thrown at them, how are we going to make sure that they're using the other features? So I'm not trying to minimize features. I'm just saying be sure to implement them in an easier, simpler way.
And I think in this adoption phase, what role does the leadership play?
Mm. Yeah, well, that's the always the biggest and fun question. Without leadership, you're not you're nowhere basically. So the I don't know what it's called, what's like in Germany, but I feel like Germany is even more progressive in their leadership than no, less progressive, I think, than the Netherlands. So in the Netherlands, how it works is you have a C-level management that says, okay, this is the route we're taking. Of course, we want to use AI. Sure, go ahead, fix it. We give you a budget and let's go. And then the project team starts to run and implement it. And then that's not just the one thing C-level wants to have implemented. They have 10 kinds of ideas they want to have implemented, like a scrum way of working or a new customer philosophy or whatever organizational changes they want to do. So in the daily lives, when a C level decides we want to do something, then we go to middle management, and then middle management says, yeah, well, okay, well, this is not the only initiative my C level wants me to do. I have multiple tasks to do, and I have my daily job. So I have all these new things C-level wants me to implement, and I have my daily job. So what do I need to do and what do I need to prioritize? And I think that's the biggest problem we currently have also with AI. C-level says, yeah, we need to have AI. Let's go. And then middle management says, yeah, well, I don't understand AI so much, and I have my daily problems. And probably also I'm afraid of my job, to be honest. So that's really a difficult problem. So middle management is always a target audience that I try to embed in my adoption approach. And I feel like this is also a call out to C level. all these initiatives are very nice, but make sure you help your middle management prioritize what's needed the most.
En dan can we are through the embedding behavior phase, verankeren.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you turn from a cool demo into a daily habit?
Mm. You remember the 30 days that we talked about earlier in this conversation? It's very hard to help people implement a daily a new daily habit. Like I have my bottle of water and I'm also drinking a cup of coffee and I had a I well, having this bottle of water with me cost me 90 days to do so and having it a daily routine because it takes about 28 days to build a daily routine. Um, uh, but building it into a habit takes even 60 days more. So, and that's also something in case of simplifying and also less features, because if I want to have one feature in my daily system, that's going to take me 90 days. And if I want to have 10 features, that's going to take me 900 days. Well, if you implement them all one after the other. But what we do is we have those 10 features and we want to pile them in 190 days. Well, that's very, very hard to build that habit. So I think that's the first thing that we have to take into account, and that's building a habit is very, very difficult. And if that's a thing to start with, then I hope we'll have an easier pace on feature implementing. And then if you have that in your system and in your mindset, I feel like that the rest will follow as well.
Yeah, we have also a hard topic. I think I get this app, but
Mhm.
um, when we talk about governance and compliance, how will you make sure companies will this adapt to Copilot?
Mm. Well, I try to stay as far away as I can from governance and compliance, to be honest, because that's a real topic on its own. But of course, I need some governance and compliance ready to have my adoption also make it available or make it successful. Because people will ask me, when can I use it? How can I use it? Those two questions are already governance questions. So the difficult thing is that we try to wait on governance, and that's something we also see in the Netherlands for a long, long time now. I can't start my adoption since there's no governance is very much a sentence that I hear a lot, and I don't feel like that's really necessary. If you have a minimal things ready in your tenant, which makes sure that your data will stay in your tenant. If you have those covered, then you can really start Copilot, of course. And along the way, we will make the governance ready. Like in our team, we use Copilot for this task. That's something that you can really help organizations with alongside your adoption rollout. But I'm the 100 document space of governance and compliance is not really spent for me. So I'll leave that to experts, to be honest. So yeah, well, it's a
Yeah,
love and hate with governance.
yeah, yeah. I understand that completely. I see you are really people focused in your model. And can you share a success story about a complete adoption?
Well, there are lots of stories where people say, I think one of the most, one that struck me the most was one with a pretty recent client. Um, was a man, and he had a question. He was kind of resistant to the change that I was bringing to them. And then I spoke with him and I said, "Well, I understand your resistance, but it's something that we need to tackle. So what can I do to help you?" And then he said, "Yeah, well, basically this is my problem or this is my question." And then I tried to sit with him, and he got his explanation, and it was really a human conversation, to say so. Also with another one a person in a session, it was an Apple user, and he had to shift from his bring your own device to a choose your own device. He was really an Apple fan, so you probably understand what the feeling was for that gentleman. But he was, and then I just said, "Yeah, I understand your frustration, but it's not my decision to do so. I can help you, of course." And sometimes I just ask people to leave, because if they're in it way too much of a resistance, then it's not very beneficial to sit in my session. So then I ask them to leave and have a conversation. Then I'll talk to them on one on one. But the first gentleman in my example, he came up to me a few weeks after, and he said, "I've never been helped like you did before in my life, and it was really helpful. And you have a fan for life now." So it's if you, my basic thing is, and I have lots of those of conversations along my career, and it's I try to be um well, you can have a human approach, but then you have to be human too, you know. So if I talk to you and it's and you have a problem, then I want to understand what your problem is, and what's making you tick, and what's making you get the best out of your daily job. And if you do not have that curiosity, then adoption is not a thing for you. Um, yeah. So yeah, I think that's the one that stuck with me the most. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I try not to judge Apple users. I
Yeah.
try.
Me
I really
neither.
try to. Yeah. But is there, I think, a funny or unexpected, yeah, story you can tell about a Copilot rollout?
A funny or unexpected?
Yeah, for you?
Well, yeah, well, funny, I don't know. But I think the most thing, the it's not, yeah, well, let me say something else, because I feel like now, especially in the Netherlands, where we are still quite early in adopting Copilot, um, I just see a lot of people who are ashamed of using AI or starting to use AI. And I would really love people to be more open and curious. In the Netherlands, we have a pretty large campaign going on a sovereign cloud solution. So sovereignty is really a topic in the Netherlands, and I feel like people are very hesitating on or hesitant on using Copilot, and there are a lot of um, false accusations about Microsoft's technology. So I feel like that's really hard to come around and help understand people use Copilot for in a large or broader scale. And I feel like I what I try to do is make it very simple. Like last December we have Sinterklaas. Maybe you heard of it. It's like Santa Claus, but then in earlier December we have two times the Santa Claus. People really don't understand that.
Oh.
So in
I
the
told this my 3-year-old daughter.
yeah. So what I try to do is send people a prompt which they can use to make a poem, because that's a tradition that we do in the Netherlands. And I feel like that's the thing to people. If we can make it with those kind of examples, make it very easy to use, and make it an example that's in their daily jobs. I feel like that's the thing that we should do to make it more accessible, and that particular prompt was very funny. So that's the only funny part of Copilot I've seen so far. But I feel like there's really a lot to do about helping people start with Copilots.
Yeah, I think, there was a band, Talk Talk, they make 1948 a song, "Such a Shame." I think that was about, using, Copilot.
Mhm.
Um, so, um, but, yeah, how do you, yeah, convince skeptical employees to, yeah, to even try Copilot?
Well, along my career, I started to convince people less and less. You probably know the innovation curve of Rogers, which states you have early adopters and innovators and an early majority, and that's together is 50% of your organization. And I've seen along the way that if you focus on the first 3, 15, 50% of your organization, that the other ones that need more convincing will join you after the first people started using technology. So, but that's also something that you need to do. It that way of thinking of approaching adoption is really something that I got along my career. So it gave me more confidence to use this approach, because in earlier days, always started to go to people with the most of the resistance, but it's nowhere near fun working for me than working with people who are really happy to use technology. So it's also a mind shift for me that I try to skip the resistance in an organization and just start building on what's already there. And it's way more fun building in that flow than in the resistance flow. So, and if the resistance is large, is also an extra question you could ask me, but that's never the point. I've never come to a company where the resistance is more than 50%. That's I've never seen that in my life. So make sure that you try to start and work with the more enthusiastic people.
That's really cool. And now we came to my favorite part of every yeah session. It's
Mhm.
I call it the hot take part.
Yeah,
It's quick options, no overthinking, and yeah, agree, disagree, or spicy take. And I ask 3 or 5 questions. So
let's
most,
go.
yeah, cool. Most companies are buying AI before understanding their workflow.
Yes, agreed.
And mandatory AI training is usually fails.
Again, what did you say?
Mandatory AI training usually fails.
No.
Um, AI won't replace jobs, but people using AI will.
Yes, agreed.
The biggest blogger to Copilot success is leadership.
Agreed.
Governance is boring until you become a disaster.
I'm not going to answer that one.
Yeah, this was awesome. A really cool session. I love it. But we run
Thank
out of
you.
time, I see it. Yeah. If you say from this session, if listeners remember only one thing from this talk, what should it be?
Mm. Well, I think it's really understand your users, talk to them. They're just people, just like you and me. Try to make it simple, not only your adoption approach, but also your technology. Um, and make sure what to do after the implementation. So not only aim on the implementation phase, but also on the embed phase.
Yeah, thank you. This was an awesome session. It was
Thank you
really
so
fun.
much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I say all the information about you that people find in the show notes and can contact you on LinkedIn and so on. And yeah, so then I say thank you for your time. It was a really cool session. Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for having me.